So, thank you so much, Rosa, for joining us and for sharing your expertise and background. I would like to ask you some additional questions that we didn't get a chance to address in the panel. So, if you can tell us about the most memorable and rewarding project that you worked on at NASA thus far, what made it stand out from your other experiences and what made it meaningful?
I have two experiences, one from my time at NASA Stennis Space Center and one from NASA Johnson Space Center. So first we'll start off my experience at Johnson Space Center. I was one of the test managers for the Orion parachute qualification test team, and we did our testing out in Yuma, Arizona. Um, so once Artemis 1 launched, we were actually back in Arizona doing testing for commercial crew. So the day of their launch, it was after we had completed our testing for the commercial crew program. One of our team members rented a room at a movie theater in order for us to stream the launch. So we invited the test team because it was almost the exact same test team from the Orion program and commercial crew, invited them, invited the local community who help us out with our parachute testing to join us at the movie theater, and we were able to late at night watch the launch from there out in Arizona all together. So we see the work that how we've contributed to the mission. It wasn't the return, which is when the parachutes would deploy, but just being able to be together in that moment was very special. And for my time at Stennis, oddly enough, it's again about being with the people that you spend so much time with. It was on my last day as a person there in Mississippi, was going to move to Houston the very next day. Um, there was a test going on in the area I was helping out with, and there was a local shrimp boil at our center, and we couldn't go because the team was testing. So they brought over the shrimp boil to the facility, and on my last day, just hovering around the ice cooler with four other engineers, all of NASA employees gathered around that cooler having our shrimp boil. that it was my last day, made it special that I was with my coworkers, spending that one last time together, spent all those years together getting to know each other. We became a family, and that's what just made it so special of just being all together and present in that moment, that one little moment that became special to me.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Alrighty, so we'll move on to the next question. For those interested in programming and wanting to work at NASA, which coding languages or technical skills would you should suggest they focus on learning? Are there any certain programming tools or languages that your team uses most often in the work you do? And which programming languages would you say are the most often used at NASA?
There is no one language. Depending on your task is what skill set you need. Some people need to learn MATLAB. Some people learn Java, C, C++. So depending on the group you're in or the tools that they use, but it's more about learning the basics of logic because that's what programming is. It's logic. Do you know the order it has to get done? The format that it's done in, it's still the same. It's just maybe a different syntax from one code to another software program. But it's if you understand the logic and can explain in your head, you'll be able to adapt from one language to another. And it's about adapting, being flexible. We use different tools all the time. NASA's innovating. We use a certain set of tools, and then over time, we learn other tools. And I have to teach my team how to use those tools. So currently, my latest project, there's this one software tool called JAMA, which is for configuration management. we are now leading the agency to try and implement across the rest of the agency in using that configuration management tool. So it's about being adaptable, flexible, and whatever interests you at the moment, because you're going to learn on the job which one you need and learn. So there's plenty of time to really learn it on the job.
Thank you so much, Rosa. That was a wonderful answer. Just want to give you kudos. I know you said there isn't a specific one, but I love the answer. I'm not sure, Stephen or Ricardo, if there's anything else you would like to add on.
I mean, I don't think I could say it any better than Rosa said it. I mean, yeah, it's, just learn any language, and it will make learning the next one or whichever one is going to be needed for your job that much easier. Yeah, but like Rosa said, there is no one language. We all do so much. Learn the logic.
Perfect, perfect. And so the last question for you, Rosa, is with artificial intelligence becoming more prevalent across industries, what role does it play in NASA's mission and research? Could you provide examples of how AI is contributing to space exploration, research, or daily operations at NASA?
Well, this summer was a summer of AI at NASA. NASA is trying to figure out in certain situations when can AI be used and not be used due to the sensitive information, ITAR information. So we're trying to find the situations when it can or cannot be used. But there are teams that are working on ways that it can improve our processes through AI and doing research on it, but they are being careful with what information they are allowing to be used in AI. But we have been told, do not use your personal emails when creating the Chat GPT accounts. Or you do not use your government emails. Use your personal emails if you want to play around with it. But there is some innovation development going on behind the scenes. I'm not sure for the exact details of it, but there is some research being done on AI.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Anything you would like to add, Ricardo or Steven?
I have something to add there. So, from a space perspective, like Rosa, I really can't chime in on there. But from a business perspective, from a communications perspective, AI is an awesome tool to use on how to make your email sound better, how to, come up with novel ideas on, how to do a process or a simple process on, and like I said, I'm not talking engineering. I'm talking about like, uh, how to do a facilities review of a simple task. You could ask AI to give you the functions or the process, and it'll spit out steps that you can then improve by yourself. I've always said that AI is not cheating; it's just giving you a jump start for you to do your job.
Definitely. That's something that even we're seeing, right, is how AI can be used to help, not necessarily to do everything or all the work, but like can help identify any blind spots that we may be seeing, because sometimes we do definitely have tunnel vision with what's right in front of us, right? So using it as a resource, not as the answer. And now I would like to move on to you, Stephen, and hear a little bit more about your responses to a couple of questions that their audience submitted. So, for young people interested in NASA but unsure which path to take, what advice would you offer and what would you suggest as good first steps, how they can explore the different opportunities at NASA and decide where they might want to contribute?
Yeah, so I think that there is no one path to NASA. There are so many different ways to get involved. Um, but I think the most important thing is to try something, whether that be an internship, which you can do even in the high school. There are internship opportunities available for high school students, but there's also our STEM challenges. So there are ways to get involved even as young as high school, during college, through the internship program at the graduate level and beyond. So I think for first steps, it's just apply to something. Try something. You have to put your name into the ring at some level. And so for the first steps, I would just try something. Get your name in there. Apply. Try. Meet somebody. Go to events like these. and start making those connections for people who are going to help you get in the door.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Is there anything else, Rosa or Ricardo, you would like to chime in?
I'll add on a little bit. For the internship programs, when you create an account, you can apply to multiple opportunities for internship for any specific semester. So the student gets to go look at all those opportunities and decide which one, I think up to 15 they can apply to versus pathways where you're applying to the center in your major and you don't know what opportunity, what the task is going to be if you do get selected for the co-op opportunity, the pathways opportunity. But for the internship opportunity, you get to pick which ones you're interested in and submit. So you have an idea of what opportunities there are available and at multiple centers, whichever ones you're interested in. So that would be a good first step is to go through those hundreds of openings that are in the intern website and see what is out there between the different centers. The centers all vary in our specialties, so the opportunities vary per center. And so your interest may be at a different center you didn't even know about. So research what the different centers have available and you'll gain a lot of insight through what the internship opportunities are for that center.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Ricardo, before I move on?
Yeah. So last bit of it to reiterate: read the applications, then apply at everything you could possibly apply. By the You're going to get a lot of rejections, but you're going to learn from those rejections, optimize, then ultimately you'll be, you know, submitting a good product eventually.
Yeah, some of my coworkers didn't get into the Pathways program until they were a grad student, but they kept applying and they finally got in. So you never give up. Keep trying.
And thank you for actually highlighting. I know that was one thing that I want to make sure to address in the panel discussion, but wanted to be mindful in terms of, you know, not everyone gets on the first try. We've heard stories where people like get accepted until the 12th try. So it's like if you hear no the first time, keep applying. Perfect. So I will go on to the next question. What qualities or characteristics have you noticed among colleagues who excel at NASA beyond technical skills? What traits help these people succeed there?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, everyone who is successful at NASA, I believe, is passionate about what they do. Everyone here, has a drive or or a love for whatever the science or the problem that they're trying to tackle. Everyone I think who is successful is because they're passionate about it and they care about it. And you can't really coach, that sort of passion or motivation. But everyone who's here is here because they're passionate about it. I would say teamwork is a very important skill. We are a very collaborative environment. So being able to work well with other people, there are no lone wolves here. Everyone is working together as part of a bigger picture or bigger team. The project is always much bigger than yourself. Um, I think communication skills are very important. If you have something you need to communicate to the team or the people around you, being able to get that message across. If there is a problem, or if there is something that we need to address or work on, or even just to share your successes, need to be able to communicate that with everyone else. And then the last thing I would say that's sort of a non-technical trait is adaptability. A lot of people at NASA reinvent themselves multiple times throughout their career here. And so just being able to sort of pivot and be ready to pivot, be excited to pivot to something new because there's so many new things that are happening. We're constantly innovating and there's new jobs that we didn't know existed a year ago that suddenly exist. And so someone has to be able to adapt and pivot and be excited about that.
Rosa or Ricardo, is there anything else you would like to add?
I noticed some of our leaders, they're very great listeners. They have to hear all points of views and they know who is not speaking up and gives those people the opportunity to speak up. And our leaders, they're they're the leaders because they speak up. They raise awareness. If there is a concern, they bring it up. And we have to make them aware of what the issues are. So everybody from the lowest branch of the organization can speak up and be heard. And that's what's so great. But you have to speak up. But the great leaders know when somebody is trying to say something or needs to say something and will allow them that opportunity to speak up.
Thank you, Rosa. And I'll move on to the last question for you, Stephen, is how would you describe the working culture at NASA? What are some of the things you value the most about the environment at NASA, and how does the environment encourage both teamwork and individual growth?
Yeah, I love to describe NASA. It's like playing a team sport, and it really has felt like that. We win as a team. We lose as a team. You know, if something goes bad, we commiserate together, but when it goes great, we all celebrate together. And we do it as a group. We lift each other up, and we help each other up. And so, that helps. If you have someone who's struggling, there's going to be someone there who's going to reach out, because we're only as good as as the team is. And so I just love that part of NASA, that it has always felt like a team, a team sport, like a team environment. Someone will listen, someone will help, um, and it's just because we all depend on each other. There are so many different types of people, types of jobs that we can't do it alone here. And that is just something I really value about working at NASA, is that I feel like I'm in this with a group of people. They depend on me, I depend on them, and that's okay, and that's celebrated. We work together. If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, for joining us. We do have additional questions, so appreciate your time to answer these. Um, are there opportunities at NASA where bilingual skills are particularly valuable? How does being bilingual enhance one's ability to contribute to NASA's work? And are there specific roles that might benefit from this?
Well, being bilingual, I speak English and Spanish, especially here in the city of Houston. It has been very beneficial. So here in the center, we've had to, I in particular, have had to work with a lot of tradesmen, a lot of contractors, where they bring in the laborers, and there's been a large amount of times in my career where I've been called over to help translate between, someone at NASA and a laborer that, just knows Spanish. And yeah, it makes me feel so valued, and I almost feel like United Nations combining two people to meet one goal. So it's been very valuable, and it's very critical skill. Speaking a second language in my particular field.
I can just say that NASA does a lot of different things, and a big part of what NASA does is communications and outreach. And there's an entire arm of NASA that is NASA en Español, and we need people who can translate all of the materials and all of our discoveries for that whole different audience that speaks Spanish as their first language. And so being bilingual has its perks at NASA.
Thank you, Stephen. Would you like to add on, Rosa?
Think um, think the astronauts learn Russian since they go to Russia. So that's they get to learn the language. So if you already have the knowledge of speaking that language, that's a little leg up if you want to help with some of those job positions. I know right now we are partnering with JAXA and ESA. So with ESA, we have people from Spain, from Germany, Italy, and people go to those countries for meetings. So just being able to navigate around it is helpful to know a little bit of the language. But they do speak English, but it's also courteous to know a little bit of the local language. And I do have coworkers on my previous project. He picked up on Duolingo trying to learn Japanese because the group went to Japan, and with our international partner of Japanese, um, we're trying to, if there's any issues with trying to understand what's going on, we try and help understand. And they speak English well, but sometimes they struggle with their English. And I sometimes wish we had somebody on the team who spoke Japanese to be able to help bridge that gap. So it would be helpful in certain situations to have that person to help interpret when there's difficulties in translating.
So we don't often hear about it, but are there opportunities for writers, designers, and other creative professionals at NASA? How can people with talents in storytelling, communication, and the arts contribute to what NASA does?
That's a very good question. So NASA has writers, designers, and a lot of creative professionals that work here. For example, we have an exhibits program that actually builds exhibits, builds mock-ups of what we think NASA might look at like in the future. And they're traveling exhibits. They go to high schools, museums, and inspire the next generation. And they're basically yeah, they're creative designers out there to build things. And a lot of them actually have worked the ones that I've worked here at on the center have actually worked with major film studios, then came to work at NASA. So it's a very impressive field that we have here. We also have a lot of interior designers that actually go and look at spaces and see how they could, inspire creativity from furniture to, the layout of the buildings. And one of my favorite ones, and I like to think this is creative, but the culinary experts, like, we have a lot of we have to make space food, right? So we have a lot of culinary specialists that make these foods. So there's opportunity there as well for that profession.
Thank you, Ricardo. That was really insightful. How has your background influenced the way you approach problem solving in your role? Are there aspects of your upbringing, education, or cultural experiences that give you a different perspective when tackling challenges at NASA?
It's a very good question. So both my upbringing and my cultural background, I feel like they have been very beneficial for my career. So growing up, my father, my dad, he's of Mexican descent, so we fix everything at home. If something breaks, we try to fix it first. We're not calling the professionals till it's broken completely. So since I was young, that was the mentality. If something breaks, we try to fix it. There's the roof leaks, we get up there and we fix it. Boom, it'll work for 5 more years. We're good. So that those skills, that mentality of we're gonna fix it right here. We're not gonna before we call anyone else. That has really worked in my life, and I've used that mentality in whatever problems or situations I have to address at both at school, professionally. I'm going to give it my opinion. I'm going to give it my fix. How would I fix that situation? And if I feel like it adds value, or if that team that's working on that project hasn't thought about it, I'll give it my opinion. Hey, from an outside perspective, this is what I think would fix that problem. And that that mentality has been very beneficial.
Thank you, Ricardo. Is there anything else, Rosa or Stephen, you would like to add?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a bit of a a personal bit for myself, but I did not come from the standard pipeline of a big Ivy League school, and I'm a college dropout. I had to go back to community college, and so one of the things that that I am very fortunate enough to think about is how can we get others who did not come in through the standard pathways into NASA, and so I'm very proud to sort of be able to comment on what it was like for someone who came from a different background, who came from a different path. What challenges did we face, and so how can we make it easier for the next generation to come? And and I didn't come from the same background as everyone else, but I can at least empathize with people who were struggling to find their way into the door, into the conversation. And so having lived those experiences, I can now bring that to the conversation when we talk about who gets to participate in science and who gets to work at NASA, and how can we open the doors to everyone.
So many people from our community grow up thinking NASA careers are reserved for others. Maybe they don't see people like them who come from similar backgrounds. What would you tell someone who looks at NASA and thinks that's not for someone like me?
Yeah, I think that NASA is for everyone. You would be surprised how many of us are already at NASA once you get here. NASA has a very, broad workforce, and there are already so many of us here if you know where to look. And in some cases, we're already here. So there is a place for you here, even if you might not think that you see yourself here. I guarantee you that we are already here. And if we're not, somebody gets to be the first, and that could be you. And so I would say, why not you?
Like to follow up with Stephen, I was the one person in my group in NASA Stennis Space Center. When I moved to Mississippi, my classmates were like, "Why are you moving there?" They were questioning. Um, they asked me, "You did see Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? You do know what it's about." Um, it just implications that I do not want to get into, but it was people were scared for me being in Mississippi. People had a misconception of what people are like in Mississippi. So me being a Latina, and there's very few females to begin with, and then here is a Latina, like just all the different barriers I there are of overcoming them being in Mississippi and just making my presence there. But what I did was I shared my experience with my coworkers. I brought pan dulce to work. I brought tamales. I shared my culture with my coworkers. And that's what I did being the Latina of the group. Hey, people ask me, what is the difference between Cinco de Mayo and 16 de Septiembre? They wanted awareness as to, do I understand it right? Can you help me explain it? And just teach me, what is it? And when the annual conference of uh, the lawyers, I forget what it is. They had an annual conference and we hosted at Stennis. It was on Cinco de Mayo. So I bridge a story of of Cinco de Mayo with one of our test programs about the underdogs and the underdogs overcoming their obstacles. And that's what we did for our test program. And that was a story I told at the annual conference for the lawyers at NASA there at Stennis Space Center. So that's what how I can contribute and I was very proud of that speech. I still have that speech. But it's helping others learn and grow by being that one person. And it's okay to be that one person. My coworkers really didn't treat me any different. I was a mechanical test operations engineer. They were test operations engineers, and we were working together to achieve a common goal. My gender didn't matter, my ethnicity didn't matter. What mattered was I got the work done. I made sure everybody was safe in a very non-safe environment, and we were all able to go home at the end of the day, and I helped the team get them home at the end of the day. That's what mattered, was my contribution as a team, not my ethnicity, not my gender. But they got to learn a little bit about me and my culture, and they did appreciate, and they would put on music in the parking lot, and I'd be doing some salsa and dancing, and they would just turn up the volume of the in the truck or the radio station, that one they were somehow able to find that played Latin music for a brief moment in time. But there I am. Luckily, the cameras were not recording out on the test stand. But so I was very happy to be able to share my culture, and people were willing to learn about it by being the one person. That was a little long, but I just wanted to share all of that.